welcome to Recap King. In this video, we will explain Hachi, A Dog's Tale. This movie tells the story of a professor who finds an abandoned dog and takes him home. Over a period of time, he forms an unbreakable bond with the dog. What is the story of the friendship between humans and dogs? Let's find out in Hachi, A Dog's Tale. Hachi, A Dog's Tale tells the story of the loyalty of a dog named Hachi to his master named Parker Wilson. The story begins when a puppy is sent from Japan to the United States. However, upon arrival at the airport, the delivery address for the puppy was accidentally torn off. When they were about to be carried by the expedition, the puppy's cage accidentally fell around the station and the courier didn't even notice it. On the other hand, a man named Parker who had just come home from work accidentally found the puppy wandering on the station platform. Parker, who is an animal lover, couldn't bear to leave the puppy alone and decided to leave it with the officers at the station. When Parker talks to the station master named Carl, the man refuses to take care of the puppy and intends to take him to an animal shelter. Out of compassion, Parker decided to take the puppy home and nursed it until someone found the puppy. Since his wife, Cate, didn't really like pets, Parker sneaked into his study room to hide the puppy there. However, because the puppy was so curious about his new place, he wandered around the house, finally entering Parker's bedroom and licking Cate's feet. Cate was very surprised by the presence of a puppy in her house. Parker finally confessed that he found the puppy at the station and felt sorry to see the puppy stranded on the streets on a cold night. Hearing her husband's confession, Cate was devastated and allowed the puppy to stay in the barn behind their house until someone looked for the puppy. The next day, Parker's daughter, Andy, was excited to have a puppy in their house. She then suggested to her father to keep the puppy, but Cate immediately expressed her refusal. Even she had prepared leaflets to find the owner of the puppy. Parker intended to send the puppy to an animal shelter, but the officer refused because the number of animals there was already over capacity. Not running out of ideas, he then tried to convince a friend, a woman who owned a bookstore named Marianne, to take care of the puppy. At first, Marianne seemed enthusiastic and wanted to take care of the puppy. But her pet cat kept growling at the puppy, which indicated its rejection of the puppy's presence near her. Eventually, Parker takes the puppy to the station and asks Carl about someone who might be looking for the puppy, but the answer is nil. Reluctantly, Parker took the puppy to work, where he used to teach music and art classes. After that, he showed the puppy to a friend from Japan named Ken. Ken tells Parker that the puppy is from a rare dog breed called the Akita. Ken also said that the Japanese character on his collar tag is Hachi, which means number 8 in Japanese. It is also interpreted as a symbol of good luck. Because all his efforts to find the puppy's owner failed, Parker returned to bring Hachi back to his house. In Parker's argument with his wife about the option to take care of Hachi, the puppy only makes matters worse by tearing up the paperwork Cate is working on. Parker immediately took Hachi out and locked him in the back shed. As night fell and strong winds hit Parker's area, Hachi could only stare blankly at the house, wishing he could be in a warm house. Shortly after, Parker left the house and went to the back shed to bring Hachi into the house so he wouldn't catch a cold. Parker then searched the internet about the Akita dog breed and found out that the Akita dog is the most loyal dog to its master. After that, Parker took Hachi to watch television in the living room, where in the end he fell asleep on the sofa. Seeing the closeness of Parker and Hachi, Cate also felt melted and forgot her anger at the puppy. The following day, Parker invites Hachi to play catch with the ball. However, unlike dogs in general, Hachi doesn't seem enthusiastic about playing throw and catch with his master. Even until Parker practiced playing throw and catch the ball, Hachi still ignored him. Andy joins in to play with Parker and Hachi in the yard. On the other hand, Cate received a call from someone who offered to take care of Hachi. However, after seeing Hachi's closeness with her family members, Cate was touched and finally rejected the offer from that person. Long story short, one spring morning, Hachi, now an adult dog, dug up the dirt under the fence and followed Parker to the station. Parker, who was already on the train and getting ready to go to work, got out from the train after seeing Hachi. Parker then told Hachi to go home, but the dog again followed him to the station platform. As a result, Parker takes Hachi home and leaves him with Cate so he can go to work. However, in the afternoon, Hachi jumped over the fence and ran towards the station where he waited for Parker's return right in front of the exit. When he saw Parker through the door, Hachi immediately approached the man and the two of them walked home together. The following day, Hachi approached Parker with a pitiful look on his face when the man was about to go to work. In the end, Parker couldn't help but take Hachi to the station, then told him to go home when the train arrived. This time, Hachi actually obeyed Parker's orders and returned home. However, in the afternoon, Hachi was on standby at the station exit at 5 o'clock in the afternoon to pick up Parker. Parker then told Ken about the various incidents he had with Hachi. Ken said that the Akita dog breed is not as interested in playing catch and throw as other dogs in general. They prefer to be close to their master all day long. Parker agrees with Ken's words and reveals that Hachi doesn't want to be away from him at all. Hachi somehow knew when Parker would be home. Their daily routine began. Parker and Hachi would walk to the station together in the morning. Then Hachi would come home when Parker would catch the train. Then Hachi would return to the station and wait for Parker to return at 5 o'clock. Because of this routine, everyone who knew Parker at the station got to know Hachi and showed their concern for him while the dog was waiting for its master to come home. The closeness of Hachi and the Parker family was also seen when the dog was invited to take a photo with the family when Parker's daughter married. One day, Parker doesn't find Hachi at the station door when he comes home from work. A panicked Parker then came to Cate at work and asked where Hachi was. But the woman also did not know the whereabouts of the dog. It turned out that Hachi was still in the warehouse and didn't dare go out because there was a skunk in front of him. Not wanting to be peed by the skunk, Parker covered the skunk with cardboard and told Hachi to get out of there. But unfortunately, Hachi accidentally made Parker open the box until the skunk finally urinated on him because he felt threatened by the man's presence. Not long after, Andy came to her parents' house and told them that she was pregnant. Parker was very happy to hear the news of her pregnancy, even to the point of ignoring Hachi, who was with him at that time. One winter morning, Hachi behaves strangely and doesn't want to take Parker to the station. Finally, Parker walked alone to the station. However, just as Parker was about to enter the station, Hachi caught up with him with a ball. Unusually, it was as if Hachi had asked Parker to play catch and ball with him, even though the dog had never done that before. In the end, Parker complied with Hachi's wish to play catch and throw before he went to work. After they had played for a while, Parker put the ball in his pocket and told Hachi to go home. But Hachi barked instead as if asking Parker to keep playing with him and not go to work. But Parker still got on the train and Hachi could only keep barking as he watched the train leave the station. Meanwhile, while Parker was teaching his students, he suddenly collapsed and died of a heart attack. As usual, Hachi waited for Parker to return at 5 in the afternoon. But Parker didn't show up until nightfall. Hachi remained faithfully waiting for Parker to return to his place despite his worries. Michael came to the station to take Hachi home by 10 o'clock at night. Hachi hears the Parker family's cries from inside the house from his warehouse, but he didn't understand what was going on. With tears in his eyes, the next day, Andy tries to explain Parker's departure for good to Hachi. But again Hachi could only remain silent, not understanding. While Parker's family and relatives gathered at his funeral, Hachi went to the station to wait. On a snowy night, Carl approaches Hachi, who is still faithfully waiting for Parker at the station, and tries to explain Parker's condition to the dog with an expression of deep sadness. Carl tells Hachi not to wait for Parker anymore because he won't be back. The next day, Cate, who intended to sell the house, was seen packing her things. Meanwhile, Hachi will live with Andy and Michael and their baby boy, Ronnie. Days passed, and Hachi always seemed gloomy and uninspired after Parker's death. One day, Hachi runs away from Andy's house and follows the train tracks to Bedridge until he finally arrives at the Parker family's old house. But when he got there, he realized that things had changed and the house was now inhabited by someone else. Hachi finally ran to the station and waited for Parker to return. A hot dog seller named Jasjit, who always sells around the station, gives Hachi some food. Soon Andy and Michael found Hachi at the station and rushed the dog home. Arriving at Andy's house, Hachi again feels gloomy and uninspired because he is filled with a deep longing for Parker. Seeing this, Andy realized how much Hachi loved and missed her father. Even though she really cares about Hachi and wants to take care of him, but in the end, she let the dog go back to the station and await Parker's return. Andy opened the gate of her house and let Hachi go. Hachi licked her hand before leaving, then ran to the station. Since then, Hachi's life has been full of anticipation, hoping that he will be able to meet Parker again one day. Every day at 5 p.m., he would wait for Parker's return at the same place. After that, at nightfall, he would sleep in a train car that was no longer in use, then the next day would return to the station to await Parker's arrival. 1 year later, a reporter comes to Carl and intends to write a story about Hachi in the newspaper. Since the story of Hachi was published in the newspaper, many people became sympathetic and sent aid for him to the station, including Ken, who immediately came to the station after reading Hachi's story in the newspaper. Ken intends to help and asks Jasjit to help feed Hachi. But Hachi talks about how the whole community at the station loves him and cares for the dog very much. Ken then approached Hachi and said he also really missed his best friend, Parker. Season after season passed, every day, every time, Hachi always faithfully awaited Parker's return at the station, although he always meets people who care for him and love him very much. Before we knew it, 10 years had passed since Parker's death. On the 10th ceremony of Parker's death, Cate visits her husband's grave, and Ken happens to be there too. On the other hand, Hachi, who is no longer as fit as he used to be due to his age and the long wait, still goes to the station and waits for Parker at his usual place. While at the station, Cate was very surprised because Hachi was still faithfully waiting for Parker at his usual place. With tears in her eyes, Cate hugged Hachi, and the moment was also very touching for those around the station. In the evening, Cate, who is visiting Andy's house, tells 10-year-old Ronnie about Hachi and Parker's closeness, as well as the dog's loyalty to his master. That same night, Hachi, who heard the sound of the train, was moved to come to the platform, hoping that Parker would come to meet him. Under the cold, snowy night, Hachi made his way to the station in a hurry to the place where he used to wait for Parker for 10 years. After that, when Hachi closed his eyes, there was a flashback of the moment he and Parker were together, and then the last passenger to stop at the door turned out to be Parker, who called for him. The old dog lifted his head and ran into Parker's arms, where Hachi finally didn't have to wait for Parker's return because they would be together forever. The film ends,